There we go. Recording in progress. Look at that. Well, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are at in the United States, wherever you're at coming from. Welcome to the Diesel Drivability Roundtable. It is March 2024. The year's moving on. It's almost the end of the month. It's what is it, the 21st today? And a lot of things going on. First of all, I'm going to be later on. Tony's going to vent a little bit, but we're going to leave that to the end. Don't want to ruin your day, but we're going to talk about a few things. However, I guess I'll start off. You guys that are listening, you're welcome to chime in. Put yourself on the chat. Hopefully, you can hear me and my voice is not breaking up because I'm happy to say that this computer is actually getting retired officially after this month. My computer is finally getting retired. I finally bought another one. So, therefore, got another laptop. But man, when you switch laptops, let me tell you, that's a big job. It's like I got everything backed up, but yet I got a lot to move over to the other laptop. So, it's been quite a little bit already. So, it's pretty fun there. So, but anyways, it's officially going to be retired. So, therefore, finally get a new laptop with no more wireless problems and Bluetooth problems and so on. So Tony's happy to say he's finally. And let me tell you, that laptop's gone 4 years. So thank you, HP. There you go. I'm moving over to Dell. Anyways, first of all, I got a phone call. If you know Las Vegas area where I'm home based out of, Pahrump, we call it over the hump in Pahrump. That is to the west of Las Vegas, over the mountain range. There's a little city called Pahrump. And in this case, I got a shop that likes to call me once in a while, and I go out there once in a long while. And no, it doesn't have an EGR. You guys are popping me that music. The engine does not have an EGR. Anyways, um, so therefore, 7.3. Okay, here we go. Power Stroke 7.3, 2000 and 2000 model. 2007.3. The problem is he's not getting any boost. Okay. No boost. Obviously, as you know, in a diesel engine, in order to make boost, you need heat. In order to make heat, you need fuel, right? So therefore, he said he came in with a misfire. So therefore, they just went ahead and put all 8 injectors. I guess he used a company called Full Force. I've never used them. So in this case, full force injectors. So in this case, he's got, again, no boost. The engine fires up, idles fine, but again, when he takes off, no boost at all. Wastegate, everything, turbo, everything's been checked out. Everything is good. So therefore, let's not even get into the turbo because the turbo, wastegate, and everything's checking out. So we're good. Okay. So you still got no fuel. So what did I tell him to do? I said, I've seen erratic issues with fueling when it comes to the cam sensor. I go, you got a cam sensor lying around because that has always been a biggie. What have I seen with 7.3s on cam sensors? I see them fire up, idle fine, but then when you take them between roughly 1200 to 2100, it'll just fall on its face. Then above 2200, even though it almost red lines at 3, it finally comes alive. So cam sensors done that. I've had intermittent issues with cam sensors. So therefore, instead of telling the scope, he had happened to have a cam sensor, he put it on there, didn't fix the problem. So I said, all right, because he's asking me for tips of what to do. So at that point, he tells me, nope. I go, well, you know what? He goes, as he's looking at the ICP pressure, it will not go over 2100 psi. So no matter what he does, I said, that's interesting. I said, well, make sure we got no air in the system. Still logged in because 7.3s can be funny that way, just like 6.0s and other QE injection systems. So what happened? I told him to deadhead the system. Go ahead and power and ground to the IPR and go ahead and crank it over and let's see if it pushes because that's called a deadheading. So you deadhead the pressure, and sure enough, he's telling me the pressure's going over 3,400 psi. So that's a good thing. So I said, well, that's good. He says, all right, now reconnect it, put it all, fire it up again. Let's see what happens. It still won't go over that. Okay. I said, now at this point, I go, we are now targeting because he already put another IPR in it, right? He put another IPR in it and still the same problem. So with that said, he still got the same problem. I finally told him, dude, you got some kind of PC problem, but before we start condemning the ECM, let's make sure you got powers and grounds. And I know that 7.3s, how old as they are, the IDM and the PCM relay need to make sure you don't got a high resistance fault because we've also seen erratic problems like that because of PCM or IDM relays. So we did that too, right? That's actually good. So where we last left with him is that he actually is going to check powers and grounds to the ECM and also to the IDM. So we're going to check that. It does pass the buzz test. So the buzz test works fine. So I'm kind of wondering what's going on because I said, dude, are you sure these injectors are good quality? Because if you've been paying attention, you probably know that it's getting hard to find a quality 7.3, especially on the AD side and AE side, more ADs of those 7.3 injectors. So again, that's where we're at. So I said, you're now looking at possibly computer. Now, obviously, he did do the ICP sensor too prior to me calling me too. So the ICP sensor's been done, the IPR's done. We've done all those tests. It is running on all 8, but again, zero boost, so no power. So anybody like to throw some input on that? Nothing? Nothing? Any inputs?
Tony.
Oh, you got an echo on the background. Lower your volume.
Now let's try that. Is that any better?
Yep.
So you mentioned that he just put a set of injectors in, right?
Yep.
And he's losing ICP pressure. Am I understanding that correctly?
It is not going above, what was it, 2100? Under full
Has
load. And he's got no boost.
And zero boost. Not just even a little bit.
No, he's not even getting a little bit. He's got, again, no boost at all. So
has he pulled the valve covers and looked to see if he's got any of the even though the rebuilt injectors where excess of oil is coming out the spout area?
That I didn't do with him. That's a good idea. Good man. There you go. Yes,
since we actually do rebuild those 7.3 injectors here, we know that those poppet valves occasionally, and you mentioned about getting good quality injectors, knowing from building them here that the AD and AE injectors have what's called a low mass poppet. We've seen more wear issues on those than the early style. And if that's not sealing up well, I could see a potential injector or two that's venting oil off, and he can't get enough ICP, and therefore he's not able to build enough fuel for the poppet for the fuel pulse with timing to the ICP pressure is not delivering enough fuel delivery. I thought anyway.
No, that's a good idea. That's why we're discussing it here. Very good. Thank you, sir. Very good. Very good. Any other inputs? The reason why I always brought up the 7.3 is because, guys, we're seeing more and more trucks, and even the phone calls that I get, where we're seeing injectors being the problem, especially in the reman world. Like I said, reman, whether being a common rail, Bosch, Siemens, or whatever, we've seen this problem where we're idling fine, runs great. You probably remember the story I've told you guys in the past about the spray paint test, because I did tell them to do the spray paint test on that 7.3 where we put paint on the exhaust manifold. If they don't burn off the paint, you're not getting enough fueling. So, but I will tell you something, Matthew, based on what you're saying, though, I believe we have an ECM problem or an IDM problem or a power problem because of the fact that we're not going over 2100 on the ICP pressure, the desired, that is. So therefore, we'll see. But yeah, the injector was one I forgot. It's been a while since I've done that test. So therefore, definitely want to look into that. So cool. Very good. Thought I brought that up. Let's see. Who else do we got? Matthew, I guess since you answered the question, you wanted to discuss something about scan tools. Let's see. What do you want to discuss before I keep going here? Did I lose Matthew?
Had on mute there, Tony.
Go ahead.
So the thing about scan tools, I've got a truck here that I've been fighting for quite a while. One of the famous 99 model Ram Cummins with the infamous problem of the torque converter lock-unlock problem, which no doubt some of the rest of you have seen that before, and I have too. But I've been all over this truck trying to get to the bottom of it, and one of the things on the list that I talked to a shop that's part of the automotive or automatic transmission service group forum had put a request in for me is use of aftermarket scan tool. And where I'm having my problem at, I was somewhere between 50 to 60 mile an hour, which is fairly common on these. And I could go over the list of stuff that I did, but it was a very simple thing. This morning, I hooked up my breakout tool to watch what pins are communicating, which is 7 and 14. this thing can be going along and you're getting this problem, a lock, unlock, lock, unlock. And I unplugged the Snap-on scan tool and the problem goes away. I had a DRB3 and hooked it up, and for a while I wouldn't do it. I have had it happen once or twice now with the DRB, and it seems like when I don't hook the scan tool up, it almost seems like it's maybe solving it too. And I can tell you how I got to this whole problem. Principally, it's we had the truck here, had to put a BP44 injection pump on it. The truck needs a lot of work. Transmission actually went out on us while we were out on the test drive, and there's a whole big story with it. I won't bore everybody with that, but long story short is we get back together and we get this torque converter locking, unlocking business, and I've been over all kinds of things only to discover it looks like that the scan tool is creating the problem. I watched to make sure the communication on the DRB is going through the same data. I mean, using the same pins for communication, which it appears to be 7 and 14. My question, I think Jim's on here too, is do you think we could actually, with a scope, see differences on those pin connections to see what's being triggered funny on those pins that's causing this problem? Is there any input thought to that? I guess and I know some might say, well, hey, you fix the truck, just get it going or whatever like that. But if I'd like to understand what's actually happening is what I'm asking. So,
Well, first of all, if you're actually seeing the scan tool, because as you know, the scan tool is pulling power on pin 16, the first thing I would check to see if we're not dropping voltage, because when you're adding that scan tool, it's like another load added in the circuit. So it's been a while since I've dealt on the wiring of that, but I do know that VP and that the grounds are a problem on those VP systems on those 24 valves. So that'd be my first thing, is that you may want to stick a voltmeter on there to see what's happening to voltage, especially going towards the TCC or one of the ECM power, or hell, even back probe pin 16, and see if it's actually dropping when you hook up the scan tool.
So I will go ahead and say this one thing too, that Tony, is having that breakout tool. It is monitoring battery voltage there, and I'm seeing that's keeping 14.2, 14.5. Now I guess that's pulling off of pin 16.
Yeah, it is.
Pin 16 should have the voltage, but you also should be looking probably at the ground pins on the connector to see if you have an issue there. Yeah, your scan tool or your lab scope can show you if you're in that circuit, if things are kicking in and kicking out. You could do that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because I doubt it's the scan tool itself doing it. It's the load that
Could
the
be.
scan tool's based on. So
Tony, it could be. I've had it happen just recently where I hook up the scan tool. I had a no start on a vehicle, pull it back off the car and start. So it could be software. What year is this truck? Again.
Matthew, what year's the truck?
He's muted again.
Yeah, I didn't mute him. So Matthew,
Sorry, I have trouble I was trouble with getting to my mute button. It's a 1999 Dodge Ram.
Yeah.
And these trucks are notorious for this problem. Alternators, TPS wiring. I even had a diode in the TPS. Went over all the grounds, fresh batteries. Tried a different powertrain control module, a different ECM. We have test here. Talked to the transmission company where I got it from. They suggested adding resistance or adding longer wire to the APP wire because the ground wire because of some resistance issues. Put a different output speed sensor in and a different VSS sensor. I thought maybe ABS was involved in this whole thing. I could go on and on with stuff that I've tried to only discover it looks like it's something to do with the scan tool.
Okay. Well, yeah, but if two scan tools were doing the same thing, they're not. Two scan tools aren't doing the same thing, right?
Right. And what I'm saying this morning when I had it out for a test run, I'm going to go reconfirm some more, but it looks like I was not getting it maybe once or there was 2, possibly 3 times I saw it happen with the DRB, but other than that, the snap-on is it's almost while it's an intermittent problem, it's pretty consistent. It does as soon as you unplug the snap-on from it, the problem seems to disappear.
And you did adjust that TV cable correctly, right?
I was even playing with that too. I was working on playing with the TV cable, and I've been in communication with the transmission company about that adjustment to make sure that that's not a problem. So
Could be.
With the TV, but not so much of a lockup problem, but okay. We'll try those and let us know, Matthew. Anybody else have any other input on that? No? Okay. Thanks for all the input, guys. All
yes,
right.
thanks.
You guys suck.
Can you help?
Anyways. All right. Where's Dustin? Is Dustin here? You got your mic on, Dustin?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. What's going on, Dustin? Dustin's got a 6.4 problem.
All right. I'll try not to be too long-winded here. 08, 6.4 power stroke. Customer brought it in. No start. We got it in, and we actually got it to start, but it died immediately, and it set the 2291 low ICP cranking. So we started through a diag on that. Started at the conditioning module, checking for air, checking pressure, all that. Ultimately, we ended up isolating the air to the injector return. He separated it there by the back driver side of the engine in the return. Tried the balloon test, didn't really work, so I shoved a hose in there, put it into a glass of water, cranked it over, clearly getting air bubbles. So seen this before, so I figured, okay, we'll just go after the injectors. Got a leaking chamber gasket, get it sealed up. So we pulled all the injectors and we got them all out and didn't find any signs of leakage past the chamber gaskets. Nothing obvious. So we tested all the injectors. All the injectors test fine. We resealed them, put them back in, and same problem. So then we try and isolate it to a cylinder by pulling a glow plug at a time, cranking the engine, seeing if the air goes away. Get all 8 glow plugs out, still getting air out of the injector return. So I figured, well, it's still got to be some pressure in the cylinder when you're cranking it over, even with the glow plug out. So we took our leak down tester and just applied pressure to one cylinder at a time. We were able to isolate it to number 3, pulled that injector back out, still didn't see anything, saw what might have been a little defect in the bottom of the cup where the chamber gasket seats. So we replaced the cup, put the injector back in, still getting air. So I'm not sure. I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around how it might be the cylinder head causing the problem, but not something I've seen before to this extent. So wondering, any of you guys seen anything?
Let me stop you there for a second, Dustin. This is a 6.4, right?
Yes.
All right. This thing has common rail direct, so therefore you got an individual line going on the high pressure side going straight to the injector.
Yeah.
So at that point, that injector should be firing given the pulse width. So if you're getting air into return, I'm thinking here as I'm speaking, as you're getting air into return, that passage is by itself, but I get it. Let me ask you this, where are you seeing that air coming out from? The return from where?
Yeah, the injector return by the return pressure regulator, where you can separate it from the pump. It's driver's side rear of the engine.
Oh, so where the check valve is, where those 3 meet, the return from the pump,
yeah,
and the return from the 2 lines.
Yeah, so it's coming out of that return line, so it's isolated from the pump return.
Okay, let me ask you this. I'm trying to get some info here. What is the desired actual rail pressure there?
If you get it bled out enough or let it sit for a while, it will start and run for about 2 seconds and then die. So it will build rail pressure. It'll meet desired briefly and then it dies. And then once it dies, because all the air in the system, it would only build like 200-300 psi.
You see, because the return is on the head,
Yeah.
So therefore, the high pressure side is on the injector. So therefore, the injector sprayed, the cylinder should fire. even though there might be whatever's going on in the return, the high side is separate. So in this case, you should, the first thing I'd be focusing on is, obviously, I take it you checked your lift pump pressure, right? And
Yeah.
volume. Okay,
Yep.
you verify that. So
Yep.
therefore, the high pressure side is separate from the return in a way, because it takes place in the injector itself. However, though, the fact that you're not building pressures, I'll tell you what I'd be doing. What I'd be doing is I need to make sure it's not in the injector itself or the pump itself. That's why I love the inverse injector flow test that Ford calls for. They tell you, screw it, go ahead and take the injectors out, flip them right side up. It's going to cost you lines. That's the only drawback of this, is that you flip the injectors up or sideways and crank it over, and you can see what each injector is doing. Plus, you can see the return coming off of each injector. Now, I know, you said you bench tested them, but I'm suspecting if you bench tested those injectors, then you got a pump problem going on too. So I think you got two problems going on.
Yeah. I mean, the return feeds back into the upper filter bowl.
Correct. Actually, it doesn't feed. There's just a joint place. It doesn't recirculate. It just goes back to the return. If I remember correctly.
It goes back in.
I got to remember. Hold on. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's a little unique in that it does go back into the bowl. So that aerated fuel from the return is going back into the supply side and being fed into the high pressure pump.
Okay. Anybody else like to help him out with this, since I'm thinking here? Where's Lee? Lee's knows the 6.4s.
Good. Tony, I'm going to throw in another 2 cents. I had one of these up in Montana a couple of years ago. And Tony, what we ended up having to doing is bleed there at the fuel cooler over there by that turbo loop.
Mm-hmm.
Bleed, and then bleed some more. My gosh. We ran that fuel pump for probably 15 minutes before we finally stopped getting air out of it.
Yeah, we really tried to bleed the heck out of it too through there, which we could actually get it to start. And then we tried to bleed it while it was running, but it would still die.
And I never heard the rest of the story, Dustin, but what we did is after we bled the hell out of it, it would start and run for a while, and then somehow we would get air back into the system. So we started replacing lines, and that's where I left it. I didn't hear anything back. So maybe it fixed it, maybe it didn't.
Okay.
Because those goofy flex lines that they got all over the place.
Yeah.
And people twist them, kink them, whatever. Maybe that was his issue. I tell you what, Dustin, I'll call him and see what he found out with that thing. But he redid all the copper seals on all the connectors. He went nuts trying to figure out where this air was coming from.
Yeah, because he said he resealed it already too. So he put injectors back in and resealed after testing. So
yeah,
those what do you call them? Those goofy copper Viton washers that stack on every one of those banjo bolts.
Yeah.
980, please. Service call
Okay.
980.
unless, see, the check valve, that check valve on that return, no, that's just but the question is, where are you getting that air from? Unless you got just air that just don't want to go away. So
Dustin, Matthew here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You are splitting it back there at that junction, and for sure it's only coming out of the injectors, not injectors and pump. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Okay. One idea of just thinking about, and I realize the air's still going to be coming, but you could at least get it running farther, is, do you have a way of capping off that return, basically essentially stopping it from going into the secondary filter, and then catching it before it goes into the cooler, so that you're getting your aerated fuel going right into atmosphere or into a can, I guess, so it's not recirculating that aerated fuel back in, and at least get it running that way?
Yeah, I suppose I could figure out a way of doing that. Sure.
I've actually here taken and got a double banjo bolt, a banjo bolt that's twice the length that it typically would be,
Mhm.
and put enough coppers and basically design it so I could jump her across and bypass the cooler, especially when that cooler is loaded with metal and stuff like that. And it was some operation like where you just kind of shut down the return going into that secondary filter. You potentially could at least get it running, so because you're not recycling the air back into the system. I know it doesn't still give you the source of what's causing the air,
Yeah.
but it will at least get you running to see, hey, is this thing going to stay running, or we got other issues here too? But wow, that is a unique one. If you can't seem to pin down, are they fresh injectors, or were they the injectors that were in it?
They're reman injectors. The engine at one point was rebuilt before the customer purchased it, so I don't know exactly how many miles are on them. But I mean, they tested out perfectly on our.
Wow.
Dustin,
Now, hold on a
Dustin,
second. Oh, go ahead.
you could maybe, if you can find another engine, make a custom built fuel line and just dump that return fuel back to the tank.
The thought
Yeah,
crossed my.
but you need return pressure for the injectors here. Those injectors require return pressure. So
Yeah.
so that's the
You're right,
dilemma.
Tony. That's not going to work.
I mean, the part that's really getting me is we can put shop air pressure in number 3 cylinder, and we can see bubbles in the filter, well, coming out of the injector return. So
Oh, you do.
Yeah,
With the injector installed.
with the injector installed.
So if you're putting air in there, and then we got a leak. Ooh, definitely got a leak there. Then we got a cylinder problem. Have you stuck a camera in with the injector removed in that?
I haven't. The thought crossed my mind, but I hadn't.
If that's the case, then you got a leak. That sleeve or that injector, something's not seating correctly. No, she should not leak. That's what those O-rings are for.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we replaced the sleeve. Still have a problem. So, I'm thinking head's probably the next step, but I can't really think about how the air would be getting through the head into the injector return. I mean, it'd have to be a hell of a crack to get, go around the water jacket and everything.
yeah, because it's like what we see with 6.0, same thing. So yeah, if that's not holding air, there's your problem there. But shit, I should have paid attention to that. Sorry. Yeah, we definitely got to figure out why she's leaking air there. So the problem is
Dustin,
when you remove the sleeve, you're destroying the sleeve. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Dustin, do you happen to have another core injector you could put down in that hole and actually run the engine basically, and then have your injector, like Tony was saying, hanging it upside down? You may be able to do some observation, but actually, kind of taking that injector out of that equation and see if you're still getting air out. You can swap another injector over, but you're questioning is it injectors at all or not. If you had a core injector to put down in that hole where you're not really firing it, but you're basically using it to isolate. And the other thing, Tony, if I'm not mistaken, you said about the return having to be pressurized on the 6.4. That's not like the 6.7. You don't have to have pressurized return on the 6.4, do you?
You need a little bit of pressure because you got to seat that mushroom valve back down.
Oh, okay.
Not the mushroom valve per se, but the piston above the mushroom valve, so it helps push it. So, but it's minimal. It ain't a whole bunch, but you need some pressure there. So, but
yeah, we do have.
But guys, it's not. He's nailed the problem. I'm sorry, he's nailed down the problem. You should not be leaking air. So therefore, he's saying that one cylinder is leaking air. So therefore, we got a sleeve problem, something distorted in there, but something tells me injector. So I'll tell you, Dustin, I'll be straight up. I'd be taking that injector out, flip it right side up, sacrifice the line, and let's crank it over and let's see if what it spits out. See if you now hold pressure too as well, because you should be building desired versus actual real pressure. So that's what I'd be doing.
Sure. Okay.
Let's get the injector out of the way, and it's not the injector versus cylinder. And then you're gonna have to scrutinize that sleeve area to see what's going on there. Okay, so no, you should not be leaking air. It should not be leaking at all. Because you're telling me, guys, remember, he's saying he's getting bubbles back in the filter. So he's definitely sending it back into the return. So with the injector installed. So that's his problem. He's nailed it. So it's either injector or that sleeve integrity or that bore integrity is screwed up. So that is your issue. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, take that injector out. If you got a spare injector, that would be great. But if you don't, then therefore turn it right side up and reconnect the lines and crank it over and see what spits out.
Yeah. Yeah. I could definitely do that. That's worth
What
a
the Ford. That's a Ford official test. I didn't mean making it up. So yeah, do that, my friend. Let me know.
Okay.
All right. Any other nighttime stories or nightmares you have? Yes, no, yes, no. All right, it is 9:35 my time. Let's keep moving on. All right. Thank you all for all your input. I hope it all helps out. Please have any questions, post them up if you're too shy to say anything. But again, this is only good if you participate. So this has been my problem nonstop for the last, what is it, 3 years now I've been doing the roundtable. Hello. So as you know, Tony does training. And in this case, first of all, I got these things, these things are my curse. These are my leashes, you know, and the problem is the phone calls that I get are just, some of them, I just want to choke the guys. It's like, I just did a few weeks ago, I did a Lucas sponsored webinar and I talked about diagnostics and this and that. But the problem is that, as time goes forward and things are continue to happen, we need to understand that where are you with electricity, right? So therefore, what I wanted to just throw in is, we just had mention from Matthew about the diagnostic link connector on his issue, right? And in this case, do you know all the 16 pins here? So when I talked to a guy, I said, dude, you got a CAN problem. You need to check the CAN network, blah, blah, blah. And this guy just slapped another knock sensor in there or just slapped another module in there and he still got new codes and so on. And I'm like, this guy doesn't have no idea about what a network is all about. Now, on my on-demand courses, I got a basic network presentation there that people don't ever look at. It's one of my least watched videos on my on-demand courses, and I'm like, you guys don't know networks. It's like, but then again, it begs the question: is what do you do when a scan tool doesn't communicate, right? So therefore, God forbid you find yourself in that position, because if you're in this diesel world the way we're sunk in it, there are many possibilities. But it all starts here at the diagnostic link connector. Even Matthew was talking about, communication problems and things happening with the computer because of a scan tool, but not necessarily always. So therefore, everybody for the most part, I will say this, knows pin 16. Pin 16 is power, and then you got your 4 and 5, which are your chassis and signal grounds there. Okay. But we got to step it up now, guys. I mean, and let me tell you why. Let me just change my screen sharing here for a second, and hopefully it won't malfunction. Let me take you. Last year, I had my butt handed to me, and I couldn't help these guys out at Wicked Diesel, actually, and they had a 22 truck. And in this case, that 22 truck, I wasn't prepared, I'll be honest with you, but it's because I had know this system. So if you like a copy of this, send me an email. This is off of Ford service information. If you have Ford or you have Identifix, you have access to this. So let me minimize this so I can see my screen because I got a lot of things in front of me right now. First of all, is the networking of it. And before I start talking about this, let me just throw you the diagram real quick there. This is today's truck nowadays. Okay, actually, it's a little outdated already because we're in 24 model year. This is 22. If you look at the diagnostic link connector there at the lower right, you're going to see that we have two diag channels coming out of there. Okay, I'm just going to go with the phrase here, but here's the point. You'll notice that the guy in charge of everything that's going on in terms of communication would be the gateway control module. Okay, where's that gateway control module on a Ford? That gateway control module on a Ford is located right behind in the center console, right behind that whole radio / display assembly. You take that out, inside right there, you're going to see kind of a fairly small module, and that is the gateway module, but you'll notice you got everything going on here. Now, this truck that I was trying to address actually had no bunch of intermittent lighting going on. Actually, it also had the ECM was actually deleted. Let me mute.
Go ahead. I'm
everybody's
just listening to
microphone.
webinar.
Hold on, I gotta
Like
mute
about four.
microphones.
thermostat
There,
and cool into my.
all right, I just muted everybody's mic. But anyways, what happened was is that we had no communication to the PCM itself. Well, turns out later on that the PCM was sent out and it was deleted. In other words, all the deletes were installed in it. So therefore, half of all the accessories, the radio wouldn't work, the AC wouldn't work. And the funny thing is, you only had minimal amount of U codes. There wasn't too many U codes taking place. So first of all, a lot of us have been trained in the old school days about doing the test with terminating resistors, right? You're going to notice there's a resistor here at the HVAC module, IPC, TCU, but let me go back up now to the article itself. Let me go back to the beginning. It says there that multiplexing is a method of sending two or more signals simultaneously over a single circuit. Multiplexing allows two or more electronic nodes or modules to communicate over a twisted pair of wires, which we all know as CAN communication on the most part, right? If you ever done, like, for example, an ABS module, or you're doing an ABS module to ECM, you may have done some wire repairs. Hell, we've even had to take two wires and twist them together because we couldn't find a supplier that sells that wire because that wire got chewed up by some mice or some animals that get underneath the hood. But let's keep going here. The vehicle has two module communication networks connected to the remote DLC located under the instrument panel. The communication networks are Diag 1, Diag 2, which I showed you already. Now, the vehicle has 6 communication networks that do not communicate directly with the scan tool. Like that one? So the gateway control module translates the messages on these 6 networks and transfers the signals from the Diag 1 to Diag 2 circuits at the remote DLC. Messages are communicated on high-speed CAN 1 and are communicated to the Diag 1 connection. All other networks are translated to the Diag 2 connection at the remote diagnostic link connector, and they are the following, as you can see there, which I will not read. All right, those of you watching the recording, you could pause it if you want to look at it. Now, for 6.7 diesel applications, the NOx sensor modules, particulate matter sensor, reductant level sensor, and glow plug control communicate on a private CAN to the PCM only, which is a CAN 2. So for additional information, they tell you to go to that section of electronic engine controls, or like if you're like me, I just look it up in a wiring diagram. So for vehicles equipped with pre-collision assist, the CCM does not communicate directly with the high-speed CAN either. The CCM communicates with the IPMA on a private CAN message as well. So you got private, and which I like to call the little locals, networks that are out there. So that's what you got. So you're going to notice there, as you look at the module network chart that Ford gives you, you'll notice that many of these do not use a terminating module. Now, I know some of you that know your networks have been using this as a way of testing the integrity of the circuit by measuring that, 120 ohms or 60 ohms, depending if it's in parallel or not, right? So the CAN uses termination to improve communication reliability. Termination modules are located at both ends of the network. As network messages are broadcast in form of voltage signals, the network voltages are stabilized by termination resistors. So each termination module has an internal 120 ohm that I just told you across the positive and negative bus connection there, as you can see there. So network termination improves also the reliability of stabilizing the bus voltage and eliminating any interference or electrical interference at all. Now, as I finish up this short brief mention about this, please note the gateway module, which I showed you already, communicates with 6 controller area networks. The OBD remote DLC is connected to the gateway and is the interference with the diagnostic scan tool. So for diagnostic scan tool axis, a remote DLC is mounted on the driver's side, which we all know as your diagnostic link connector, right? Now, it acts as a central gateway to translate messages across all the 6 controller area networks, right? So it is the only module on the vehicle with this ability. So therefore, it serves as a termination module for each of the networks to which it is connected. So obviously, what I'd be doing is I'd be spreading out the whole diagram to see who goes to what. So this truck really had us at a point because I was finally getting to the point that, because we could not reflash. Remember, this PCM was actually deleted. So therefore, we couldn't communicate to bring it back to stock. In other words, the gateway module was thought to be the problem, but it was not the problem, right? So we double checked that. So we were trying to understand why am I not being able to that? So I can get more into that, but I'm just trying to show you guys what is lurking with you on communications here, what is going on here. So in this case, what I'm trying to say is we have to understand what we're going to be dealing with. That's why if you're welcome to read this, there's more to it. Obviously, time constraints here cannot, this is not a class per se. But another thing I wanted to mention is there's also a medium speed control area network, which we call the MS-CAN. Okay. The medium speed control area networks operate a maximum data transfer of about 125 kilobits per second, are designed for general information transfer there. So in the rest of it, it's actually going to show you there how you're going to actually scope and look the signal. So we're going to get more into that later, but all I'm just trying to tell you what you're going to see on the scope on whether it's shorted or shorted to ground, or again, you got CAN negative shorted to ground. We're going to look at all that later on in future classes and presentations. So, but for now, I just thought I'd wake you up a little bit because that old traditional 6 and 14 has changed now with the use of your pretty much your gateway control module right there. So very important to understand there. So a word to the wise. So let me go back to my PowerPoint here. I'm going to switch back. And so therefore, if you don't know what a gateway is, gateway, we first learned a gateway is, at least from my perspective, when we were dealing with TIPMs on Dodge Rams. If you ever worked on a Ram 5967, we know about the gateways. In other words, when you connect, you wanted to communicate who's the first guy you talk to is the gateway module. You can't get to in other words, to the ECM unless you go through the gateway, which is the TIPM. Now on a GM truck, who was the gateway? The BCM, right? So therefore, who did not use a gateway on early models was Ford. Ford did not use a gateway until you now saw the 6.7 has now got a gateway too as well. So as we look, even some of the wiring diagrams, I should open your eyes, especially the factory ones. I'm a big factory guy. I know you guys like to use the Mitchell style, and that's okay. But again, you look at the layout of the wiring diagrams here, you could see the data link connector here. There's your pin 6 and pin 14. You'll notice it goes up to this box right here. So what is this box? What is this part of your TIPM right there? I don't know if you can see my cursor right there, but that is your TIPM. And from there, it just goes to wherever it's got to go. So therefore, this is a diesel. This shaded area represents a diesel. So there's your CAN C, your positive and negative, and you're going to see that it goes to your PCM. So again, we're just showing you basically in order to talk to the PCM and the drivetrain control module, you first got to go through where? The TIPM module. So therefore, then it splits off from there from the TIPM to other sections here. There you can see a continuation of other modules there. Because let me tell you why I mentioned this too as well, is because in shops that I visit here in the last 3 months, we've had some problems with ABS communication, U-code communication, where the wires were fried. It was too close. Somebody did an exhaust modification, whatever they did. Now they're trying to figure out the wiring and why they have these U codes. And sometimes, that short or that power and ground or those wires shorted can actually take out something else too as well. But in this case, these guys could not understand that, hey, am I going to diagnose this, So, we have to understand how you look at your CAN communication. What is CAN low and CAN high, right? You'll notice at the center point, which I tell guys to basically check, is let's see if we got at least 2.5 volts, because if you got 0 volts, you got nothing happening. But in this case, look for a min of 2.5. But it can rise or drop, whether CAN high or CAN low. And what do we call that? The bus positive, bus negative, some people like to call it. But in this case, we can rise to 3.5 or drop down to 1.5. So here you can see one I did off a truck. I think I did this off a 6-liter. And in this case, you're going to notice right there, that was live as it was showing. Might be moving a little yucky on your screen. Let me stop it right there. You're going to notice the color code right here. So therefore, I'm at 2.5 here. And on this color coding here, I'm at 2.5 here too as well. So therefore, the center point is 2.5, but it rises or drops. That's the difference between CAN and high and low. So guys, it was just a matter of me selecting that on my scope, on my snap-ons. What is my snap? My Zeus. And I just connected one lead on CAN high, CAN low, right at the diagnostic link connector through my breakout box. I was using my DLC breakout box. But in this case, that's basically what you're looking at CAN. So for those of you that are really novice at this, that means that on these wires that I just showed you, if you're diagnosing, you are going to see there, for example, here's one example. There's your high and low right there. So obviously the base point is 2.5, but what you're going to see it rise and drop to 1.5 or 3.5, depending which is the positive or the negative CAN communication. So who's going to be your best friend that I'm trying to get guys to understand is actually your scope, because you can look at your meter just to see if you got your 2.5. That's it. That's the average voltage. But in this case, in order to truly see what CAN's doing, plus you don't have any interference, you're going to have to connect your scope. You follow? Make sense? So therefore, that's what you're looking at right there, and that's what I'm looking at here. So therefore, again, you'll notice different colors because I have a 4-channel scope. I'm only using 2 channels, so different colors for each channel. They're not overlapping each other here. So I could overlap them, but I'm not doing it. I'm just trying to show you here, 2.5 right here, and we're at 2.5 right here. Everybody see that? So therefore, I can use it rise and drop. That is CAN. So if you are dealing with a communication problem, you're better off using the scope as a tool, which we've been trying to tell you. So I thought I'd do a few recordings for you guys to see that. So
Hey, Tony,
yes, sir.
is your screen showing the same? Is each channel set it for the same voltage level?
I believe so. Yeah, you can see 6 volts right here and 6 volts here. Yes.
Okay, because that looks like they should be basically the same. There should be a 2-volt difference between them when the pattern's going across. So
Yeah, that's why I told you to read the scales right here on the color code.
yeah, well, it
Because
doesn't
you'll
look
notice they're not lined up here. Here you can see the 3, you can hear the 0, so they're
okay.
not lined up. But yeah, you're right. I mean, now that I got you, Mr. Wilson, there, since you're the scope guy, do you agree with what I'm saying here on this
I agree
network
with
setup?
total. I have
Yeah,
no
so
problem with that. The only thing that I would tell the guys is there's one other thing you can do is you can put your scope pattern up there. There should be a 2-volt difference between the 2 signals if you put them real close to each other. So that works. Yeah, what you're telling them they're going to have to do. And then the other thing I wanted to make sure everybody knew for a fact that if you're on a Dodge and it's got a problem, a lot of times it will actually quit. It'll tell the scan tool that is not needed temporarily, and it will drop down. And for that 99 Dodge, I put a little note in your chat. There's a Identifix. I remember this now. I went and looked at it. There was noise on the TPS sensor, so you might want to check the TPS sensor, vehicle speed sensor. And I sent you the stuff off of Identifix for you, Tony, to hand to the next guy.
there you go, Matthew. All right. All right. So therefore, guys, thank you, Jim. Mr. James, appreciate it. So therefore, guys, you got to be careful. Here's why I'm telling you all this, because the cost of that gateway module, if you want to do the guessing game, that gateway module is $1,800. And then if you've seen the videos on YouTube, a bunch of other great techs that do their videos on YouTube, you're going to see that even a tail light on a fully loaded Platinum is not going to be cheap either, which we mentioned before, because is there also CAN communication for the sensors, the lighting, everything inside one tail light? That is something you're going to have to know to diagnose, especially if you got a communication problem with it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you still haven't grasped CAN, you better start grasping it now, because we got a lot of local networks, and it'd be a pity that you replace, for example, something as frivolous, like I said, a knock sensor, and you haven't checked power and ground to the sensor and also your CAN communication going to it, or else you're going to find yourself in trouble there too as well. So there you go. All righty. Any questions, comments, questions? There you go. Where am I on time here? Got to watch my time clock there. Okay, yeah, we're good on time. All right. So another thing here. So yeah. So one of the things you'll notice on my website, the main page, you'll scroll down. You'll see I have a recorded conversation with Dana, who's the owner of Lake Arbor Auto and Truck, and they're doing very well. I went to their facilities, you can see from the pictures, to do some training. We did a lot of electrical, and let me tell you, like many shops that I have visited, I have had success, but I've also had also some failures too. I'm not going to lie to you, because time is a constraint, or I just was not prepared for some of it, because you guys throw me every kind of diagnostic. Oh my God, things I've thought I could see or not do, but and the thing is, the reason why I bring that up is because I get a lot of guys that want to come to the Diesel Master course and they don't get to come, or I got some shops that also are interested for me to come out there to actually do some training as well. So due to overwhelming requests, we're going to see how many were BSing me or not BSing me, but I've decided to put all the content of the Diesel Master course online. So therefore, if you've never taken a Diesel Master course, I'm going to launch it sometime in the second week of April. I've been working on it previously, trying to get it up there. As you know, the cost of the Diesel Master course has been $18.50 to come out here. That's a week course. All the big three, but now I'm going to be putting it all online. Plus, it's going to be live, some of it's going to be recording, but it's going to follow a format. So therefore, if you want to learn it right, it is very important. So here's the problem. Since I've been working with Mr. Mark Weller on EV, we're trying to launch an EV class, teaching guys EV, because I already had a few shops saying, hey, Tony, who's a resource? I got some customers bringing me their Teslas and their hybrids. I don't know nothing. They want me to do their full service, and I don't know nothing about it. So therefore, if you want to run away from it, go ahead. But the thing is, to me, it's business. It's money you can make. You got to learn. You got to keep up. But I also got some shops. I got like 4 shops I've been talking to that want to move from auto and do some more diesel. So therefore, again, that's another drive behind putting the Diesel Master course online. So I'm thinking I'm trying to decide on the final pricing. No, it's not going to be $18.50. It's going to be much lower than that. But you got to understand that this is going to have the books and the handouts all to be downloaded. So I even have a website now that you're going to log into, and you can download all the PDFs and all the books and everything that comes with the course. So it isn't just something you're going to watch on the screen like I've had with my on-demand courses. All right, so therefore that's going to be out there. Okay, there's my email. There's my phone number. If you want to talk to me about it, leave me a message if I don't answer. But let me get to my point here. You got to understand this all costs money. Okay, time and money. So therefore, yes, I'm like anybody else, a guy that's trying to make his money, trying to make his a living. That's what we do. I take care of my family, all that, just like many of you do. So when a guy texts me yesterday, and tells me, hey, Tony, because he needed some information off my Identifix, and it's been months. Now, this guy hasn't given me any business or done any training with me for like 12 years now, right? And the thing is, he says, I need your access to your Identifix. I can't log in. Now, he's a shop that's making money working on a customer truck. And he wants my login and password. And what's he giving me his business, right? Not that I'm trying to be greedy, but you know what? These websites cost money. Everything costs money. Even for me to have them host those PDFs where you can download the books, that costs money, right? So you do all the math, the websites, everything, it adds up. So when I get another shop that says, hey, Tony, I've logged into your electrical, I want to get into your electrical class, that online class, that's great. I need you to send me 2 logins. If I'm charging $45 for just the electrical one, stuff, and now it's designed for one person to log in, and now you want to put 2 or 3 or 4 guys, that's not cool, man. So yeah, I'm calling you out, all of you that are just being cheap on me. It's like, no, this costs money and time that's spent. Like even this slide you're looking at right now, it took me a few minutes, if not, some time to put slides together. So therefore, this all takes time. And yeah, I don't work on trucks all the time. I do a lot of training too as well, but at the same time, we have to charge appropriately. So I was talking to the EV guys, and I was watching their full-blown course, and they're like, these people charge an horrendous amount of for a week of training. I mean, I've seen that go from $3,500 to $7,000 training. We don't even come close to that. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is, our prices are reasonable compared to the other trades that are just as important as diesel oil. So what I'm trying to say is, respect it, because if I call a guy, and I had to call a guy to come fix some stuff here at home, I won't say in detail, but I understand that guy is going to charge me a service call because he's going to get in his car, he's going to come over here, gasoline, wear and tear on his vehicle, plus his time costs money, right? So therefore, he says, hey, Tony, it's going to be all $400. It's going to be the service call for me to come out, do the diagnostic, this and that, $400 to do it, plus the part. Cool. That's what it costs. That's what it costs. I'm not going to argue with the guy because he's got to make money. It's like, because I'm a business owner too, he's got to make his money. So please understand that us as trainers, we have to deal with a lot. And there's some trainers on here right now, and they could tell you, it's kind of sucks sometimes that we wait 30 to 60 to 90 days for our pay sometimes, especially some of the corporate people that we have worked for. That's why I don't work for some people, like, some people that sell videos that used to use me. I don't use them anymore. Why? Because you wouldn't see your money for 60 to 90 days sometimes, and that's not cool. So with that said, what I'm trying to say is respect the fact that we're just like you, just trying to make a living. So when you see an instructor that, sometimes this instructors that do shows and stuff, we don't get paid for 2 weeks to 60 to 90 days. It all depends. So therefore, in the meantime, bills got to be paid every month. So with that, I ask you to please, definitely want to respect the fact that we're just trying to make a living just like you. And I hope I make my point, So therefore, no, the courses are for one person. You want another person, you pay an extra fee. That's what it is. So therefore, that's the way it works. So thank God I got other sources of revenue that I work hard on, but it's my work. I work. So therefore, I'm like you. So there you go. So those of you watching the recording, please understand too. If you got any comments, let me know later. If you got any questions on email, definitely send me an email, tcellis@dieseltg.com. So we hope you understand. I hope we can help you. And by the way, this roundtable has been free. And guess who pays the hosting fees? Because that Zoom account isn't free either. So there you go. So I'm done with my, excuse my language, bitch session, but that's what I wanted to make sure we all understand there. So, all right. Any other comments? You can unmute your microphone. Let me take you all up here. Comments?
Tony,
Yeah.
so have you seen the breakout tool that's offered now to get behind that gateway module?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it, but I haven't used it yet. So
okay, because I was to a Ford networking meeting. Actually, a couple of us guys were last August, and they had one there explaining that here, the need of that, I guess, in the future to maybe, because of the diagnostic, it's obviously if you can't get through your gateway module, if you can get on the other side of it, might be helpful in trying to troubleshoot those network issues that you were describing.
there you go. Because we got to tap into those wires. They're not easy to get to.
Exactly. One of the quickie, I know we got to get going here, but I did have another vehicle. Wanted any thoughts, and if we don't get time, it's fine now, but I did want to just throw this out there. 05 Volkswagen TDI got an intermittent, customers complaining of power issues. We've went over fuel supply pressure, looked at the cams because I know those have had some issues. There's a whole list of stuff with it, but bottom line is I'm getting an intermittent. It almost seems like a misfire, and it almost goes to almost like knocking sound. Didn't know if anyone has any experience with them in terms of even just finding with the scan tool being able to cut a cylinder out. I don't think we were having real good success being able to actually be able to cancel a cylinder to actually find if it's a certain cylinder that's causing our problem. Maybe no one has a lot of experience with those on here, but there's a lot more to the scenario I won't go into for time's sake. But yeah.
But what's the complaint again?
So the customer saying overall the power is down on this, and it to me, why I don't drive that style vehicle car often, it did seem a bit sluggish. It's worse at times, and at other times will even go into you'd almost think it's a misfire. It kind of almost stumbles, throws all kinds of smoke, and this kind of loses overall performance. But it's a very intermittent. It's not consistent in doing it.
Now, what
year is
this together?
It's a 05, so it's one of those pump deuce.
Yeah, the pump deuce
units.
injector,
Yeah. And we have went over fuel supply, verified are not losing a fuel supply pressure to it. Customer had it somewhere else previously. Has the EGR is no longer intact. That's been taken, so that's not the issue there, like an EGR valve hanging open. We even took the exhaust down, thinking maybe that it had a restriction going into it. Checked air restriction, checked for leaks, whole laundry list of different things. But yeah, it's kind of a little bit strange as to why it's intermittently acting up. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I don't know. Anybody got any input on that one?
I have seen a similar issue on one. Ended up being an injector.
Okay.
Yeah, it was intermittent. It sounded almost exactly like you were explaining. What scan tool are you using?
I had a Snap-on, but I also have a VAGCOM that I've had I've used a little bit on it, but I need to get it back out there.
Yeah, the VAGCOM, you can look at balance rates if I remember right.
Yes.
So that's how I was able to pin it down and get it to act up. I look at balance, you can see it was dropping out.
Okay. We'll explore farther. Thanks.
Yep.
All righty. Good point. Thank you, Mr. Dustin. All right, gents. Any other comments? Any other things? Just to let you know, we're going to be doing, let's see, what are we going to do? The next roundtable will be probably around this time next month. I got actually, it'll be mid-month because of the fact I'll be traveling. I'm going to be headed up to Washington area starting early Monday. And Dustin, you're the one in Oregon, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be, if you want me to head out your way, send me a text. I can stop by, say hello. But anybody in the Washington, Oregon, Northern California area, if you want me to stop by, I'm going to be driving through there. So therefore, I'll have my stuff with me. So if you'd like me to stop by, say hello, I'd be more than happy to. So it's always nice to keep up with it. So I'm not doing an East Coast run this spring, but I probably will do one in the fall. So we'll see how that goes too. So therefore, there you go. Any other last minute comments? We're just about out of time, Mr. Lee, Mr. James. Anything you'd like to add there? What happened to Lee? Did Lee fall asleep?
No, I'm here, Tony. Tony,
there
I
you
just
go.
got a quick for the group. It seems like from all the way back to like here we go again, 2016 and up. Ford's in a recal of all the knock sensors again. This will be about the 5th time. Just FYI, you guys doing diagnostics, you might check for updates.
Pretty much a given nowadays with these damn things. Yeah.
No
keep them
kidding,
updated, the
Tony.
program.
It's just,
Oh,
it's
by the
never
way, has
ending.
anybody seen the result of the new update mandated for the Cummins 6.7 after that fine? I'm getting quite a few phone calls about it, seeing people are saying it's consuming a lot of DEF is the number one thing I hear. And I wouldn't be surprised that check engine light is going to be coming a lot sooner. Anybody heard anything about that? On putting the latest update for RAM? I guess I wouldn't do it. So,
Tony, I may have mentioned it last month. I'm not sure. I had a customer call me here not very long ago. They lost 6 miles a gallon on their fuel mileage and were consuming about, they said they were getting about 4 tankfuls for every fill up of DEF beforehand. After the reflash, it was every 2.5 to 3 tankfuls they have to fill up with DEF. So more DEF usage and a lot more fuel usage.
yeah, I would have thought so. Yeah. So I'm telling people that call me about it here locally. I tell them don't do it. Stall it. Don't do it until the police come and EPA holds you hostage, then you'll do it. But don't do it. So
Hey, Tony,
yeah. Yeah.
I went on about a car. I told you about it, but anyway, I sent the thing from Identifix on a possibility of the throttle position sensor on that 1999 Dodge causing a problem with noise. I sent it to you. You can forward it over to Matt for me.
Oh, you emailed it to me?
I sent it to you just a few minutes ago.
Okay, I'll send it over to Matt. Alrighty, Matt, you'll get that here in a little bit. So, all right. Any other last minute comments? Yeah, it's been pretty good session. This is one of my better sessions. I appreciate you all that have participated and helped. Anything you'd like to add or have any questions about? Remember, always ask questions. If you don't network, please remember that the Diesel TG forum is out there. It's all free too. So therefore, if you want to go to dieseltg.com, click on forums, become a free member. You can post your questions there. I believe I got 2 emails regarding it. I got to go check that out. I usually stay out of the Diesel TG, even though I host it, because of the fact I want you guys to talk to each other, network with each other. So we got to get that moving a little more. But there has been some traffic into there. So if you ever have a problem or question in the future, obviously you can always contact me, but you can always definitely go to dieseltg.com on the forums and definitely post your question. It's a nice, blog right there going on there for everybody to help each other out. So there you go. And guys, always remember, if you want to know questions about Duramax, Cummins, Ford, all the big three, even TDI, like you just heard the questions being asked, there ain't too many places to go to. So therefore, we try to help each other out there. So there you go. With that, last call. Any other questions? All right. With that, I appreciate you all attending. Until next month, or if you want to be, there is going to be on April, what is it, April 2nd, 3rd? If you go on my website, I do have a in-depth, and this is going to be a hardcore diesel drivability seminar. It's totally different than what I've done. If you're used to my old stuff, Tony's upped his game, but he's not releasing it free anymore. So therefore, you're going to have to pay some money on that one because I got a lot of room. And you also have manuals and some material to be given to you on that too as well. So it ain't just a webinar. It's also in everything. So I've been working on that too. So like I said, I've been working on a lot of projects. If you're interested in that, go to the website. You can also see that too. With that, que Dios los bendiga, like we say in Spanish. God bless you. We will see you until next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony and everybody.
Thank you.